LabCoatAgents podcast.
LabCoat Nation, welcome back to another episode of the LabCoatAgents podcast. And today I don't have one guest for you. I have two guests for you. And these guys are a couple of, I'm going to go ahead and say it. I just met them. So I'm going to say this anyway. Software tech geeks. Maybe that's harsh. Maybe I'll say nerds. I don't know. Maybe that's a little looser. But these guys have built a platform that some of you may have heard about already called Showingly. And we're going to talk about that at some point during the podcast. But I think what's more important is what these guys can bring to the table in terms of their experience, not only on the real estate side of things, but also in the tech world. And obviously having built some software that I think most of you are going to find extremely sexy if you've never heard of this. I think they're going to be able to share some insights on where the industry is today in terms of tech and where it's going. So with that said, welcome to the show, Jonathan Martinez and Andrew Coco. Is that correct?
Yeah, Coco. Thank you.
Perfect. Welcome, fellas.
Yeah, thank you for having us. I think that's the first time anyone's gotten Andrew's last name right the first time.
So easy, man. It's like Coca-Cola.
Yeah, unbelievable how many times they mess up his last name, but yeah, excited to be here.
Usually I ask first, but I figured that can't be that hard. I mean, it is what it is, right?
Yeah.
Well, good stuff, man. Good stuff. So fellas, let's do this. Start, first of all, introduce yourselves. Let's just assume our audience has no idea who you are. So if you're watching this, which I know most of you aren't, these are a couple of young fellas based out of the Denver area, but I want them to tell us a little bit about themselves, where they come from. I just told you where they're from geographically, but where you come from in the business, like what brought you to where you are today, and what are you guys doing now? So I'll let you guys choose who starts first.
Go for it.
Yeah, definitely. So Jonathan here. Born here in Denver, Colorado. Pretty excited to start a company here in Colorado. Outside of that, Andrew and I both have a background in real estate, but before that, dabbled in a few things. Used to be in accounting and the CPA world, and used that and leveraged that experience to start working for some startups in New York City. And so that was a really good time, galvanizing Soho out there. And really got a taste for true entrepreneurship, mainly in tech, and just kind of the diverse businesses and personalities out there. And so while simultaneously doing that, and then obviously working in accounting, eventually just fell in love with being a business owner. And I was so just thinking for years and years and years, where could I try my hand at, dabbling in owning my own business. And long story short, ended up getting my real estate license actually on a bet to my dad. He bet me I couldn't finish my real estate course in I think he said 8 weeks. I finished it in 5.5. And so, and then so begins this crazy wild ride in real estate, and did really well as a single agent, hopped in a few different brokerages and got a taste for the industry there. And then along that road, just ended up taking me and really building a friendship with Andrew, and then the story kind of takes its own shape from there. But I'll let him give his background first as well.
Yeah, similar in that I went to the Northeast. I went to school at Babson College in Massachusetts, and it's a very entrepreneurial school, I should say, and was part of a few ventures there. And it felt like at this place, there were billionaires as faculty members. Everyone thought worldwide, global, or at least nationwide, very, very big, right? And people were very creative, and people were maybe too creative. But I eventually came back to Colorado to get into real estate because I didn't have any ideas on what I wanted to build in terms of a business, and real estate and being a realtor or growing a team seemed like the easiest thing to do in terms of not needing to think too hard. And there's opportunity waiting for you if you're willing to work incredibly hard. And I think coming into this world, it was like people weren't necessarily thinking too creatively, but they had so much more focus and purpose and precision than all of these kind of loopy entrepreneurs had in the Northeast. And honestly, I think it was the best of both worlds because, we learned how to wake up at 5 a.m. and go to the gym and get to the office and crush a 12-hour day and make your calls and do all of the things that are needed to do to really bang on that door to success when there's no hope of getting there. And I think in the entrepreneurial world Northeast, it's like these guys will wake up whenever they feel like it and work kind of in and out, do meetings, do calls, and then drink, and then stay up all night, and then wake up whenever. And it's just a different lifestyle. And, in doing all that, we started the real estate group that we had, and then thought to ourselves, our heart is in technology and making things better for people. And yeah, we could do this with the real estate group, but our hearts weren't in it. And so we started Showingly, and slowly but surely the vision grew and grew. I think the confidence grew. And yeah, here we are. It's been 3 years that we've been on Showingly.
Yeah.
5 years ago, I think it was, that we entered real estate in general. So
awesome. Well, I tell you what, you just made up my decision that I'm moving to the Northeast, because everything you just described sounds really awesome to me. I mean, I can get up whenever I want. I can stay up and party, and I can make $1 billion. I mean, what's wrong with that?
That was at an entrepreneurial college, man. I don't know if it's like that in real life, but
Hey, sometimes from the outside looking in, that's what it seems like. Or all our friends out there, those are their dreams. So
I love it. I love it. I'm sure they've grown up since then, and a better half had probably wrangled them in a little bit. My first thought too was, when you guys say, I'm entrepreneurial and you're in Denver, come on, you didn't open a dispensary like every other person has done in Denver or Colorado?
Oh gosh, no, yeah, it seems like they're popping up everywhere. I mean, on every corner there's a new one. But
5 years ago when I got into this, I was like 20, and I remember getting a floor call, and it was this dude who wanted me to go take him through like a $2 million commercial building for purposes of opening a dispensary. Maybe it was just to grow, to manufacture. And I was totally oblivious at the time, and it started to dawn on me as I was doing the showing. But it was like, welcome to real estate. That's Colorado for you here. Like, we never dabbled, I guess.
No, not really.
Doing that,
That's interesting, because I actually know several real estate professionals in Colorado that they either are currently doing it on the side or they've done it. So it just seems like it's just a way of life in Colorado for whatever reason, but not a bad one. I mean, we've just discussed two really awesome ways of life here, fellas. I think we can talk about show. It's not so bad. I mean, do we have to talk about Showingly and tech? I mean, come on.
I mean, we can just talk about how everyone's happy here in Colorado, walking around.
Some real business opportunities.
I love it. Well, for the sake of LabCoatAgents and what we are, let's get back on task. So I mentioned in the beginning, so first of all, it's interesting. So you guys are relative pups in the real estate industry, 5 years total, which means you were in production for just a couple. First of all, what was that experience like as realtors yourselves, and what led you to vacating real estate that led you to where you are now?
I would say we were in production until around the time COVID hit. So it might've been 3-4 years in production. And then it started to become a conflict of interest, because obviously you don't want people to think if you're being a tech provider that you have any conflict of interest. And at heart, we didn't. And it didn't dawn on us till a little bit later that we should probably let that go officially, even though it wasn't being used in that way. But I would say the first year, I don't know if this was your experience, but the first 6 months maybe was just learning. Like it felt like I couldn't get a deal no matter how hard I tried. And I think the first deal I ended up getting was I would do 300 or 400 calls a day with a 999 dialer and leave voicemails when they didn't answer. And it was a callback on a voicemail that got me like a $600,000 listing. I remember walking into the listing appointment. I'm just 20 years old, and I think I'm wearing shorts or something. I probably tried a little bit harder than that, but they're like 70 years old, trusting me with their $600,000, largest asset. And here I am. It's like, how do you even begin to tell someone that you are trustworthy as a 20-year-old, not having done a deal? And I think from there, within a year after that, we were able to start a team. I think I hired my first agent under me before I could drink a beer, legally at least. And Um, from there, we grew the team. I think when John joined, I had about 5 agents. Then John crushed it, and we scaled the team together to about 30 agents. And this was all probably within 2 or 3 years of having joined the industry. Here's how I would say we approach this, right? You can, and this is what we told some of the agents too, is do you want to follow some of these people that have been in this industry 20 or 30 years and have what they have right now, but it's taken them 20 or 30 years to get that? I mean, you could have that in 20 or 30 years. Or do you want to do what we've done in a tenth of the time and have comparable results? Because we thought about it like this. If you had a gun to your head and someone said you have to accomplish your 10-year goal in 3 weeks, what would you do? I mean, you have to think about it in a way that stretches your mind beyond the things you've assumed are possible and not possible, because you wouldn't let someone just pull the trigger. You would figure it out, or at least even if you couldn't, you would think in ways you've never thought before. And that was the approach we took. And that's why we had a team of 30 agents within 3 years of even knowing what real estate sales was. So.
Yeah, I think just expanding on that, there was a lot of people in our brokerage or just our friends, and when Andrew and I started, hey, we're starting this team, we're going to start scaling it, yada yada yada, and everyone was like, no, you have to do this, you have to do it this way, and we're like, no, we don't want to do that, and just kind of going against the grain with traditionally how it's been done, and nothing wrong in that, but we just had other dreams and other things to accomplish. And so I think, the biggest thing that I've learned through this whole experience and just seeing the miraculous things that, people from all walks of life and background and, whatever narrative they tell themselves is just, why not me? Why can't I do it? And allowing people and setting up a system for people to just challenge their way of thinking, the way it's always been done, and do it in a way that, there's a plan in place to get there. It just, sometimes it takes massive action. And and so on that alone, we both, we built out systems that would facilitate scale. They'd be great at, a small team, but also great at 100-person team. And that's where we were going to go. And then obviously Showingly kind of came in the midst of that alongside our team, but we started doing really, really well. And when we were recruiting new agents, producing agents, whatever it was, is we wanted to take anyone from really any walk of life or any career or whatever, plug them into the system and have them be successful with whatever that meant for them, whether that was 4 deals, 5 deals, or they wanted to be a top producing agent from the business model that facilitated that, more money in their pocket, more value up front from the team model. And then leverage kind of, the system that we were in. Obviously we didn't have a brokerage, but leveraging, our brokerage that we were at and utilizing the tools available to us to really grow and do something meaningful and also, teach our agents, how to think, not what to think, and those types of things. So.
I love it. So would you say that the experiences that you guys had in real estate are what led you to wanting to build Showingly? Is that where that came from?
I think that I'd have to say so. It's one of those things where we had the team and we'd been thinking on such a big scale, and that's why we were building it so quickly, that almost the vision for the team or the vision for what we wanted to do outgrew what we could do with the team and began to seep into what we could do for the industry. And that's kind of what breached us having our hearts in building a team and more in building something that we could materially change and have an impact in a great way for the industry.
So let me ask you this, and this, I always thought this question and now I'm living it. So I kind of know the answer, at least as it is for me and probably for some others, but you always see people at events or speakers and they're talking about how successful they were in their industry and they left to go do X, right? Whatever it is, to build a company or coach or whatever. And it's always like, well, if you were so successful, why would you walk away from that? Why would you leave that? Why wouldn't you just scale a team to run itself and then move over to another venture? What's your guys' answer to that?
We started making some good money right before COVID hit, and probably we would not have just folded the team and maybe look to sell it even though the multiples aren't that great, or at least hire a CEO or something, right? But with COVID having hit, we had just raised a few $100,000, I think, at that time to build Showingly. And it was becoming clear that we had to not spend our time building the team. And with it being like April of 2020 or May, it was just, it was too much. There was no way to sell it, or at least we didn't have the time to figure out a way to sell it. And we couldn't keep doing it. And so it was just a very difficult decision, but we had our hand forced, I would say.
Awesome. Well, and I don't think it's a bad thing necessarily when it comes to when you're in the real estate space, selling something to the real estate world and not competing with them. But then on the other side of the coin, there's something to be said for, I still have my, my hand in the cookie jar, and I'm still playing the game, and I'm boots on the ground. And just curious. Just the curiosity, because I interview a lot of people just like you guys, and I just like to ask those questions because I'm just always curious. So let's talk about Showingly. Let's talk about, actually, you know what? Before we get there, let's go there. Let's go there first, because I think it's a natural progression of this conversation. So COVID happens. You guys, tie up the team and just end it, right? And you go all in on this. What does that look like? How are you paying your bills? I mean, obviously it must have been going well, but talk about kind of how this has all kind of evolved.
Yeah, I think just kind of backing up, when we had the team and experiencing all these solutions that we had to, manage the team from the operational side to the actual real estate and facilitating, all the sales systems, marketing systems for your agents and all these things. I think that was, the real development of Showingly. I think, we started, with a very particular vertical of solution. And then I think from there we began to grow it very, very quickly, the vision, through the experience that we received from actually utilizing the systems in the industry, from CRMs to, marketing systems to even our brokerage systems that we had to use for compliance and all those things. And so for us, it was just kind of like there's so much more. And I think that began, the identification of an either if I can speak, an even bigger problem, which was just kind of how segmented a lot of these solutions were, given that they don't talk very well to each other. And that's a big problem, right? I mean, I think it creates a lot of confusion for most agents, and really agents, what they should be focused on is, their relationships and those things. And if the systems are hard, they can't do that. They can't focus on their relationships and really creating and building rapport with their clients when they're worried about, their overdue tasks on their CRM, or, worried about how am I going to create, world-class marketing materials, so I can go get some business, or what dialer am I going to use, and all those things. And so for us, that was a big precursor to the development of really Showingly. I don't know if you got anything.
No, yeah, that all was important in shaping that. And I think once COVID hit and once we started only focusing on Showingly and had no income from the team, we quickly burned through that cash we had made, I think. And to your point, it was like, what are you going to do when you run out of cash? For us, I think we trusted on I guess, self-development or business principle that if we didn't give up and if we put every ounce of energy we had into it, something would go right at some point. We'd get a break, and we just, despite how hard it was going to get, if we just kept pushing, it would happen. And we took that approach to the bitter end. I mean, it was like June or July during COVID, and I think we had no money. I think we had maxed out our credit cards. And I remember we hadn't really built the company as quickly as we wanted to on the tech side. And we had to convince investors to give us money at that time, even though we hadn't accomplished what we wanted to with the other money we had raised. And, we had taken friends and family money, and we had plenty of people working for us or with us, wanting to build this. And if we couldn't execute on raising, then everyone was going to lose everything. And I remember just during that time, also not being able to pay rent. We're going to bed at night, thinking these thoughts until early in the morning. And it's like, at the end of the day, does the principle apply when it's easy or always, right? And so we just kept going. And eventually, I think there was a time when we realized we had to become the tech guys more so than just guiding on an architecture level. And so we really went and had to do it ourselves a lot of the time. And we put every ounce of energy we had into making this work one way or another. And I think eventually, it started to pay off, but it took years and years, I would say. So it wasn't fun, wasn't easy, but now we have a great team here, 35 and growing. We have brilliant people that now we couldn't possibly touch the code or anything like that because they far outclass us. And it's gotten way bigger than us at this point, and so very thankful for that. But you're right; those times were very defining, I would say.
It sounds like a real estate agent's career as well. I mean, just an entrepreneur in general. I mean, if it was easy, everybody would do it. If it was easy, everybody would stick around. There wouldn't be an attrition rate. So it's a good testament. It's a good story. I think it's good for an audience to hear that about it. It's feel good. So with that said, what the hell is it?
Whew, that's a big question. And I think the essence of what we started with, of course, was showing management. I mean, it's in the name, showingly. I think something we've run into recently was we don't want to be known just for showing management, because what we started to realize was what John was saying about these technical solutions is you have over 600 MLSs nationwide with their own databases that don't really always talk to each other. You have all these derivative solutions that take all this listing and sold data and try and build something off of it. And you have all these one-dimensional solutions. I think as agents, we had to navigate 8 to 10 different platforms or solutions to even accomplish our day-to-day business. And so what Showingly is the comprehensive solution for an agent to quarterback their entire business. And we don't have all of those 8 to 10 solutions just yet. I think we're at 5 or 6, but the vision here is to be able to get into this platform and manage your entire business and not have to go to literally any other platform. You can stop paying for them all and you can run everything right here. And then taking that to be a good reflection of technology and you yourself as an agent to your consumers, and then connecting you to your brokerage. We want to build that ecosystem, and that is at heart what Showingly is.
It's a literally all-in-one. Is that what you're telling me? Literally, that's the CRM. Does it have follow-up? Does it have all that stuff?
CRM for sure. The only CRM that actually has a connection to the consumer, because your clients in your sphere, when you put them in a CRM, you're just blasting information at them. But with Showingly, your consumers can download the Showingly app, and then they can search for homes, and everything they do will add data to your CRM.
Interesting. Okay, so let's backtrack here for a second. What would you say? What piece of the software, the technology, or what drove you to want to create this? Because was it all just you were sitting there one day and why couldn't there be an all-in-one solution? Or was it, we really need this, and then from there it sprouted into many other things?
Showing delegation, maybe. Showing management. You can take that one if you want.
So you're asking kind of
start.
What started? Yeah, I think the beginning we're looking at the consumer and driving convenience for consumers, because obviously without them there is no buying and selling homes. And so I think that's where it begins. And how we started that was showing delegation. A lot of markets don't know what that is, but brief synopsis on that is basically if an agent can't be at 2 places at once. So if he has 2 different clients have the same showing appointment at the same time across different sides of the city, obviously I can go facilitate one, and either I can tell my client I can't do, my other client I can or can't facilitate his showing. In this case, basically hiring a showing assistant to go do a showing for you. And so that's how we started, was that showing delegation. There's a few companies that I think, are still around, and they do that in pockets of, across the US. But and that's how we started, was except those delegation companies didn't have a consumer facing application, which for us, we were going to add that element of home search and the consumer side to it. And then obviously from there, a really easy direction to go is showing management.
So yeah, let's just say this. The agents, us included at the time, are all scared of Zillow wiping them out or other companies like that, adding so much convenience to the consumer that they can convince them to go here and not to agents or whatever it might be, right? And of all of these fears, we thought to ourselves, there's no united technology front that professionals present to consumers. And it's so complicated that you might have 1,000 agents in a market, and you might have 25 different client-facing search apps or websites that are presented to a consumer. And so none of them are going to remember any of these at scale. They're all going to default to the shallow ones that are non-specific to one agent. And so we thought to ourselves, we need to find a way to provide deeper convenience to consumers beyond just search, which is why we started with the ability for on-demand showings, or at least looping them through the showing process with their agent, and then ultimately having that professional friendly and agent friendly back end and platform that can facilitate that consumer interest. So unlike companies that sell leads or that try to take your listing data and use it against you, we take the data for agents and we make it valuable for them. And we connect them exclusively to their consumers and their clients so that they can't connect with anyone else or be sold to anyone else. So we're trying to add that united technology front for professionals to present to consumers. And I think that's what it started as. And then we realized if we're going to add that united technology front, we need to do more than just showing management.
At what point along the lines, if you guys thought to yourselves, this is a solution that will help you circumvent Zillow?
I think you start this kind of company, and if people ask you your dreams or your goals when you go to bed at night, they might be crazy and they might be big, but it almost sounds stupid to say these things out loud, or to an investor, to the public. And so, I would say, frankly, day one that we thought of Showingly, we were thinking big. We were thinking, what could we do? And that's just kind of how our minds were oriented. So honestly, first 10 minutes probably, but how long did it take us to say things like what we're saying here? Probably months or years. You know what I mean? So.
Interesting. Well, and I say that because you're going to capture the attention of ear holes when you say, just use the word Zillow. It's an attention grabber, but frankly, I don't know that there's only a handful of agents, literally a handful of agents across the country that are Zillow agents that will say Team Zillow, right? And even then, secretly they're not. It's just a means to an end, right? But I think anytime anybody can introduce a piece of technology or software that allows you to not be reliant on them, and not just them, there's others, there's RDC and there's other, the platforms out there. I think that's a win. I think that's a win in the real estate community's minds. And I think some people are probably applauding right now. So tell us a little bit more about this. I mean, it's an all-in-one solution. Walk us through a transaction. What happens? I'm an agent. I just signed up for the software, and I've got my first deal. I don't know if it matters. Does it matter if it's a buyer versus a listing? Which one do you prefer?
The process flow is that an agent might get a listing, right? They go to the MLS and they can enter that listing to the MLS. And from there, they're going to say, how do buyer agents get access to my listing? In the showing instructions, they'll put Showingly. And in the Showingly web or app, they can ultimately go and configure that listing for showings. And then buyer agents can either single sign on from MLSs or download the app or sign in on web, however they'd like to get into the platform, and schedule showings on that listing. And so that core showing management functionality is very straightforward. But like we said, that's not all you can do, right? So if I go to the platform, I don't need to be doing showings to find value. I can go in there and go into my CRM, and I can go and add my clients, my sphere, and ultimately connect with them through the app, or just if they don't want to download the app, they're still logged in there in your CRM, so you can still manage your communications with them and things of that nature. And those are two obvious use cases. But one thing that's incredibly exciting is we have aspirations to build the real first legitimate agent social experience. In that sense, connect agents to each other. The reason we want to do this is because there's many things that are lacking on current technologies because agents are not connected in one kind of single identity point of social media, for lack of a better term. So for example, if I want to make an agent one of my TCs or one of my admins or one of my acceptable showing assistants that I can delegate showings to, or anything of that agent to agent nature, or I want to join a team in the platform or anything of that nature, we need to have this ability to connect to other agents. And so with what we're doing with our social part of our platform is allowing agents to follow and unfollow each other, potentially see stats or listings for each other, so that if I'm following someone and they get a listing, I'll be notified of that listing. And so then it's good for agents to get followers because their listings will get more exposure. So that kind of thing is also happening native to the platform. And ultimately, it's easy to understand that we want to connect people. We want to connect agents to their business, so showing management and CRM. We want to connect them to their clients. We want to connect them to their brokerage. We have the brokerage hub in the platform as well. And then we want to connect them to each other.
Awesome. So beyond that, as I look through, some of the slides that you guys sent, I see some data and some graphs and things like that. What is that? What is that is built in there, and stats and that sort of thing? Because that's something that I haven't really heard you guys talk about yet. What is that that's built into the platform?
Yeah. Go ahead. We have some really, really brilliant people on the data team. And one thing that we've been able to do that many people have not been able to do, I don't know actually anyone that's done it, is we've done percentiles in a very easy to understand way. Because it's one thing to know that I've sold $3 million year to date. It's another thing to know that that places me in the 89th percentile in my MLS. And so some deep data insights, some great visualizations. There's a lot there that we've just added to the platform as a value enhancement, because instead of selling that as some kind of product, we really want this to feel like a platform that I can come in and explore, run my business through, and that kind of thing. You would expect statistics and valuable insights. And so we can do that on the agent level. We can offer the brokerage that on a brokerage level. We can also offer a brokerage the agent specific stats for each agent on a brokerage level.
It looks rather sexy. So let me ask you guys this. You guys.
That was the first.
I use that word a lot. But you gotta earn it. You gotta earn it. Let me ask you this. So clearly, with your experience and now doing what you're doing, which is building a very robust real estate piece of software here, that I think is very interesting, and a lot of agents should absolutely check out. Where do you see the industry going? I know we teased this in the beginning that we were going to talk about this, but after we're coming out of COVID, well, are we going back in? I'm not sure. That's another conversation for a different show. But where do you see us going? Because whether we like it or not, it's impacted our lives. I mean, here I am now working from home, and now I'll never go back to the office because I've built out an office that I don't want to leave, and it's just more convenient. So where do you guys see the industry going when it comes to technology and whatnot? Because I mean, God, you look back 5 years, you look back 10 years, and if you had said we'd be doing some of the things we are today, you'd been like, yeah, I don't see it. But now things are progressing so fast. If you had said 5 years ago that the TikTok would be what it is, and you told me all of the features that were built into TikTok, I'd be like, that's not possible. but now look at it. It's insanity, right? You're a damn near a professional videographer and you have it at your fingertips. So talk to us about that. Talk to us about what you guys see, because clearly you have your finger on some pulses that most of us don't.
Yeah. I think like just after kind of learning so much about the industry and all the solutions that are offered, I mean, and Andrew probably more importantly can talk a bit more about the data behind the industry. And I think overall, I guess people throw around the term dirty data or just it's kind of chaotic, the way, the industry handles data. And I think that's where it all starts. And that's where we started with kind of sanitizing the data and cleaning it up when it gets into our system. And I think that's first and foremost the biggest hurdle that the industry is going to have to tackle is handling the data from, obviously I know there's like RESO and RETS and all these guys that handle data. And I think it just needs to be cleaned up a bit. And then, secondly, kind of moves into another point of getting into, the data is the reason why it's very chaotic with the systems and solutions that are offered and why they don't talk to each other and all those things. And, I don't know if you have anything else to elaborate on that, but
the problem as I see it is that the industry is very resistant to change, and sometimes for good measure, but not recently. And if we don't have drastic changes from real estate professionals, companies that don't care about them will like some of the companies we've mentioned will come in and change things in ways that they don't want things to be changed. And so they need to embrace change or suffer the consequences. And so for us, while they're trying to innovate within, very restrictive lines, and we want to be at the forefront of real material change innovation here. And that's what we mean when we say sometimes that if the industry can't present a united technological front to the consumers will default to the simplest value propositions, which in this case are some of these companies. And so that's what we're trying to do is we want this united technological front for the industry.
It's a powerful statement. The statement that and it's true, and it applies across all of real estate. And part of the reason is because the average age of a real estate professional, both real estate and mortgage, is in mid-50s, right? And so it's natural that there's a resistance to change. On the other side of the coin, if you find yourself at a younger age than 50, let's just say, and it doesn't matter if you're 70, right? You have the ability to evolve, and those that embrace technology will have an advantage over those that don't. Because I know the president of our company used to always say, one of his favorite lines was, technology will never replace humans, but those who embrace technology will create a distinct advantage over those that don't. And maybe he's right, maybe he's wrong, maybe it will replace us to a degree. I don't think it's going to be in my lifetime, especially not in real estate. There's just a human element to buying a several $100,000 or $1 million home that requires human to human interaction. I mean, there's a reason why, obviously Quicken has grown the way they have, but at the same token, if you talk to any realtor, if you give me 1,000 realtors, 995 of them are going to say, stay away, right? Why? Because it's not human to human interaction. Even though it's a human, it's a call center human. It's just different, right? And so I think it's always interesting to talk to guys like you, who you're the ones creating the technology, but not the technology to replace, the technology to assist, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, it's technology to help the human not be overtaken by the robot. Am I correct in saying that?
Yeah, I think it's just flipping the narrative on, really what we're offering is a suite of tools to enhance agents and make their life easier and build relationships, because we understand that real estate is a relationship business. It just is. And we obviously understanding that, I think a lot of the times, with many of the solutions that are built, obviously they're involving technology, right? But we also come from the other side of things as well, where we understand how much interaction there is between people, and this is a people business, and that's what it's about. And so how do we enhance that for agents? How do we enhance their day-to-day, leveraging technology, bringing innovation, making things honestly easier? And that's what technology should do. It should never be to replace, the human completely. And I think that's where we're the most, in my opinion, I'm obviously not objective, but I think we're the most agent centric company. I mean, we're just out here to help agents.
I think you're absolutely right in saying that humans will not be replaced by technology, though this is the decision, or this is the fate that people in the industry are going to suffer if they don't embrace change, because either all of those humans that are facilitating deals will work for Zillow because they own the infrastructure around how the consumer now buys and sells homes, or they will still maintain their own companies and be very decentralized and have a lot of different pockets of companies doing this, but that infrastructure cannot be owned by one brokerage like a Zillow. So that's why we're here, and we're building this buying and selling infrastructure so that all of these agents and all of these brokerages can still do their business, but the means through which the consumer goes through the process is not controlled by one brokerage. Because I think you're right, there will be humans, but will it be like it is now? Because we are trying to help the industry in that way, or it'll be by the company that has done it, right? So that's what we're really aiming at.
I love it. And I think a lot of people can, again, stand up. If you're on the treadmill right now, push pause, standing ovation here for these guys. Because this is what the industry needs, right? This is the reality of it. This is what the industry needs. This is what we want. So fellas, tell me, what's the best way to learn more about Showingly if we're interested? I know that it is in limited markets currently. So tell us about that. And then tell us how they can best to get a hold of you, because I think you're gonna have some interest from this show.
Yeah, appreciate it. I think the easiest way is to go to showingly.com, though if there's any personal interest, our emails are pretty simple. It's andrew@showingly.com and jonathan@showingly.com. I think, to discover us and to use us if we're in your market, we'd be extremely grateful. I think right now our goal is to speak to as many MLSs as possible, to enter as many markets, to be as available for all of you as possible. So yes, that's what we're working very hard to right now.
And I'm in St. Louis. I'm an agent. I want Showingly. I can't have it. What markets are you in?
Right now we are in Colorado. We're about to enter San Diego. We just partnered last week, actually. We're in Miami in Florida. We're in launching a few markets in the Northeast through MLS PIN in the next week or two here. And then we are in Arizona as well. Austin, yeah. Texas. I think I'm missing one. Bakersfield. No, are we in
Bakersfield's a new launch?
We might be in Bakersfield. Yep. But yeah, we're launching new markets every month. Hate to go into all of them. And I think if we're not in a market you're in, this is where we would ask for some help. Is we're not even at this point needing to have an MLS pay us. At this point, depending on the structure of the agreement, they, whether they want to license it or whether we have showing management at the agent level, we just want to go wide and be available to all of you. So any word you can put into the MLS or anything of that nature would be phenomenal.
Yep. Awesome. So in other words, the sky is the limit and you intend to be in as many markets as you can possibly get into.
Yep.
Awesome.
As quickly as possible.
Say that again.
As quickly as possible.
What is the, and where is the largest contingent of your client base right now?
I would say Denver, probably Miami. Maybe Miami's taken over Denver. Yeah. So probably Miami.
Awesome. And that's random, but what led you guys to Miami, for example?
Phenomenal leadership at that MLS. Yeah. I think we just clicked the first day. It was real. Just sometimes you're gonna have a good relationship with someone, and it was kind of like that. But hoping to have more of those. Yeah, more of those moments.
I'm sure there's many of them out there. Guys, go check this out. Showingly.com. Where can we find you guys on social media?
Question. I think it's Showingly should appear if you just search it. Maybe get Showingly on Instagram.
There's probably not a whole lot of competition with that word, so it should be easy to find, right?
You know, it's weird. Sometimes people have squatted on the names. It might be Get Showingly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Get Showingly on Instagram, on Facebook.
Get Showingly. Just Showingly.
Just Showingly. Awesome. Sorry to throw you guys on the spot there, but I mean, after all, we are a Facebook group, so it's I think it's important to mention. Some people might even be listening there. So, fellas, I appreciate you guys being on today. Again, it's showingly.com, Jonathan at showingly.com, Andrew at showingly.com. Shoot these guys an email. If you have any dispensary, opportunities, maybe you want to reach out to these guys. Just kidding. Reach out to me. Fellas, thank you guys for being on today. It has been a pleasure. Yep. It's been great getting to know you, and I'm sure we'll be seeing more of you, and hope to stay in touch.
Likewise.
Thanks, Jeff.
LabCoatAgents Podcast.